If you run a hospitality business or you supply them, this story should worry you because it shows exactly how fast things can turn even after an insolvency rescue. I'm talking about TGI Fridays, and the new owner is preparing another pre-pack administration. And this is what insolvency looks like in real life, and it's brutal. So in this video, I'm going to explain clearly what actually is a pre-pack administration in plain English, who wins, who loses and why, and what this means for you if you're a director, a supplier or a landlord and you work in hospitality. So let's talk about what's actually happening at TGI Fridays, okay? Let's sort of lay out the timeline that matters. So we all know who TGI Fridays is. It has been going for decades. Now, back in 2024, October 2024, it was bought out of admin for over 9 million quid, right? So it was rescued in October 2024. Now, 12 months later, the old CEO, they acquired TGI Fridays, other sites and the brand, etc., from the buyer who bought it 12 months previous, okay? So that takes us up to October last year. Well, guess what? 2 months later in December, they filed a notice of intention. And basically what that means is it's a notice that's filed on the court e-filing system to basically let the charge holders of the company know is that they are intending to put this company into administration again. Now, what's happening now in January 2026 is a pre-pack is being prepared. So a new buyer is being lined up for the company, the assets, certain sites, and the debts of that old company are going to die with the administration. And this is the key point for you. A pre-pack is designed to keep certain parts of the business alive, but it's definitely going to leave a lot of the old debts behind, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you now what is pre-pack administration. And here is the simplest way that I can explain it to anyone, right? The old company is going to go into admin and the new company is going to emerge, right? The old company's debts go into the administration and a lot of them are going to get written off. They won't get paid. Now, the buyer that's basically buying the assets off the administrator, and a lot of the time, it's the same management, it's the same directors. They're going to buy the assets of this business and selected parts of it, okay? And then the new company is going to continue to trade. In this case, it's probably going to be with fewer sites, fewer staff, and if you will, a cleaner balance sheet. I'll tell you the best analogy I've ever heard, right? A pre-pack's like this. Your business is a Arctic lorry that's going down the M6 on its journey of business, okay? Now, on that lorry is some very, very valuable cargo. It could be stock, machinery, sites, brand, goodwill, websites, intellectual property. But on its journey of business, the actual lorry that's carrying the assets starts to break down, the tyre blows out, the engine starts to make some noise, and eventually it starts to catch fire, okay? And what a pre-pack allows you to do is to pull the lorry over on the side of the motorway and a brand new lorry comes hurtling down beside it, and the new lorry takes the cargo of the burning lorry off and puts it on the new lorry, and then it drives off into the sunset, continuing that business, and the administrator is left to deal with the wreck of the burning lorry, okay? Now, that I hope makes a bit of sense to people. Now, why would a business do this? I mean, especially in hospitality, flipping out, it's brutal out there. Costs are up, minimum wages are up, less people are going out, especially in January. And any business, like, if you're not really robust, cash flow can collapse quickly. You know, landlords can start to give you pressure. Suppliers that aren't getting paid, you know, they've never been more aggressive. And HMRC, listen, if you owe HMRC at the moment, you will be feeling the pressure. Go back 18 months ago, you could sort of kick HMRC into the long grass. Now you get behind with one VAT payment, they are on your doorstep knocking. There's over 2,000 more enforcement officers now chasing in HMRC debts. And this has really created a sense of people are being backed into a corner. And insolvency is happening. Insolvency can come on people in a matter of weeks. And what a pre-pack does, it's you save what can be saved, you save it fast. But the harsh truth is, it picks winners and losers. And that's what I want to talk about, sort of who wins, who loses, what happens next. So staff can be winners or losers. In some administrations, staff are moved over. They are moved over via 2P. But let's say if there's lots of different sites, and part of when they buy it out of admin, the new buyers are only taking on certain sites, so there's going to be closures. There's of course going to be redundancies. It's what a lot of, you know, if you hear the term slimming down, that's what it means. Because in insolvency, staff are going to be made redundant in a lot of cases. And then your staff are going to need guidance on redundancy, you know. Remember, if they've been there with you over 2 years, they'll be able to get statutory redundancy pay, and it's sort of a week or a week and a half served, depending on their age. And I think it's capped at £719 a week at the moment. If they're not paid wages, they can claim that from the redundancy payments office. And even if they've not been there for over 2 years, your staff can still claim unpaid wages in an insolvency scenario. They can actually claim holiday pay that's been accrued and not taken. And there's also a thing called notice pay that they can claim in lieu of not being given the correct notice. But listen, it's stressful. It's stressful for you, the directors. It's stressful for staff. It's uncertain. And it often happens fast. And what we do here at Director First, we help support you supporting the staff as well. Okay? Now, another harsh truth is suppliers. You know, if you're a supplier to a business that goes into an administration or an insolvency, here's a real brutal part. Your invoices to the old company often become unsecured claims. What that means is, in most cases, you're not going to get paid the money. Because if there are any realisations in an insolvency, it's on a hierarchy. The first person to be paid is a charge holder, someone who has a debenture against the company. The insolvency practitioner needs to be paid. Then there's a thing called preferential creditors, people like HMRC. Then you've got the body of unsecured creditors, and at the very bottom of the pile is you if you're a director and you're owed money. You're a connected party. Now, the new company in a pre-pack might say to the suppliers, listen, we'll trade with you, but only on new terms. And that'll mean for the supplier, they've got to make a call and go, right, well, I've lost money. Do I also want to lose a client? And you'd be surprised how many suppliers will still support a new business that's going through a pre-pack, especially if you've worked with them many, many years. But for the business that's going through the insolvency, it's probably going to mean that it's going to be cash on delivery. You know, you're going to have really poor credit ratings, be able to put in smaller orders. Or in a lot of cases, they actually might drop you completely, and you can understand it. Then we've got to look at landlords. You know, landlords are often left with arrears in the old company. You know, empty units from closed sites and difficult choices about who they relet to. Now, if you're going through a pre-pack, or you're considering a pre-pack, and you want to stay in the same site, it's really important to get the landlord on board. You know, is the landlord, I'm supporting a business at the moment, and the pre-pack, the old director's got to, he doesn't want to carry on. There is a buyer lined up, and the buyer wants to keep the site on the same terms. But the cash flow is so tight in the insolvent business, that every month they've got to find the new buyer has got to put money in to pay the rent, because the landlord, quite rightly, will not assign that lease unless the rent is up to date. So really difficult for landlords. And obviously let's talk about directors and management. And this is where I really want you to listen in. Because when you go into administration, control shifts. You know, you're not calling the shots anymore, okay? And the process is heavily scrutinised, okay? Especially, please don't do this. Please don't try and move assets out of the business cheaply or on the quiet. Be careful about paying certain creditors over other creditors. It's called a preference payment and it's going to be spotted. Be careful about making big withdrawals out of the business to you personally if you've become insolvent, because that's going to cause you a problem down the line. Now, even though TGI Fridays are a massive brand, I think there's lessons in this for every director, even if you're not in hospitality. Because if you think about it, TGI Fridays who've been rescued a couple of times and they're still considering another pre-pack, you've got to ask yourself the questions. You know, are you delaying HMRC just to keep the doors open? Now, sometimes that happens and it works, okay? Now, sometimes, you know, the February 7th VAT quarter gets missed. It's almost part of your business model, right? But you know you're going to make plenty of money in the rest of the year, and that's why you do it, okay? But you've got to be careful. Are you missing 2 VAT quarters? Are you basically missing a VAT quarter and you've got no hope of it in the next VAT quarter? You're kicking the can down the road. Are your creditors, are your suppliers tightening credit? Are landlords threatening legal action? Are you relying on short-term loans just to survive? Please, please, please. If you are on that hamster wheel and you're looking at personally guaranteed loans, and what they're actually doing is they're literally just letting you keep the door open for a couple more weeks in the hope that things get better, please stop. Because I've done this a long time. I've seen it so many times where directors are making business debt that would die in insolvency, and they're turning it into personal debt because they're taking on personally guaranteed loans to try and keep the business afloat. Now, sometimes that's the right thing to do, okay? But a lot of the times it causes more problems than it solves. Because if you're at this point that I've just talked about, timelines can accelerate quickly. You could be wound up at any moment. Landlord could come and, you know, change the locks. Suppliers could issue a CCJ, a winding up petition. It all changes very, very quickly. Now, if you're a UK director, even if you're in hospitality or not, and you're under this type of pressure, don't wait for a cliff edge. Contact us. We'll help you understand your options, and we'll help outline any personal risk. And we'll help you take action early, because the earlier you take action, generally the more options you've got available. Listen, subscribe for more plain English insolvency breakdowns, and if you drop a question below, I'll reply to it personally. And if you've enjoyed this video, I want you to go over there, and it's going to talk to you about how exactly you buy your assets back in a business, exactly how to do it without it causing you problems. Thank you, Chris Worden.